Hi everyone. In this video I'm going to show you how you can make volume sliders for master music and sound effects volume in your game, as well as a mute button. So here in Unity I've got a simple project set up. It's just a couple panels here with a title, and then I've added a button for our sound effects and a button for our music. I've also added another panel with 3 sliders: music, master, and sound effects, as well as a toggle for our mute. And you can create all these by just right clicking, going down to UI. You can create a slider, a toggle. Okay, so first thing we want to do after we get all this set up is go into our button here and let's just add a new audio source. This is going to be our sound effects audio source. So I've imported a couple of sounds here. I've got a money sound effect and then just a music track. Okay, so for our sound effect button, we're just going to drag our sound effect in there. And we're going to add an audio source to our music button as well. We're going to drag our music track into the audio clip there. I also want to untick play on awake because I don't want these playing at the start of the scene. And actually for the music slider we can also tick loop because we probably want it to keep looping. Okay, so now what we're going to do is create a new script. I'm going to call it volume. Whoops. And let's open that up in Visual Studio. So I'm just going to get rid of these for now. So we need references to the 2 audio sources that we just created. So audio source, we'll call this one music source. And SFX source. And let's make these public so that we can drag them into the inspector. Now we just need a function for playing the music and playing the sound effects when we click the button. So we need to do public toggle music. And let's make another one called play sound effect. Okay. So for this one, what we want to do is check if the music's already playing, and if not, we want to play it, and if it's already playing, we want to stop it. So we take our music source, and what we want to do is check if the music source is playing. And this is a Unity check here. It's just a Boolean. If it's playing, it's going to return true, and if it's not, it's going to return false. So if it's playing, we just want to take our music source, play. Otherwise, it's already playing. Actually, if it's not playing, we want it to play, and if it is playing, we want it to stop. Okay? So that's just going to toggle the music when we hit the button. Now for this one, we just want to get our sound effects source and play. Okay? So let's go back into Unity. And our volume script has these 2 fields now. So let's take our sound effects button, drag the audio source into the sound effects field. Same with the music. Now let's go into our button here. down to our onClick event. Let's add an event. Let's drag in our volume script. And let's go play sound effect for our sound effect button. And for our music button, same thing. Drag in the volume script and toggle music. Okay, let's try this out. Hit play. We play sound effects. Okay. And our music. Click it again. Shuts it off. Perfect. So the next thing we need to do is have a way for these volume sliders to control the volume of our two audio sources. We're going to do that by using an audio mixer. So if we just right click and we create audio mixer, it's going to call this master. Okay. If we open this up, just going to dock it down here. Now for our groups here, we want to make new groups for our master, music, and sound effects. Our master is already set up. So if we right click on that, we go add child group, and let's call this music. And back up to our master, right click, add child group, call that SFX. Now you can see here the master, the music, and the SFX, okay? So the master is going to control all three because they're children of it, and these two are going to be controlled independently, okay? So now what we want to do is go to our audio source here, and for our sound effects audio source, we want the output to be our sound effects. So that sound effects slider is going to control this audio source, okay? So the master is going to control all three, which will also control this, and the sound effects is going to control only this. Same with our music audio source. We want to drag in our music, okay? Now we need a way to control these sliders in a script. So we do that by selecting our slider here, and we go up here to volume and we right click and we expose volume of master to script, and that's going to create a parameter down here. Now we can rename this parameter master volume, and you got to remember this name because this is the string that we're going to use in the script to change the volume. Let's do the same with our music. Click on it, go up to volume, right click, expose volume. It's going to create another parameter. Let's call this music volume. And same with the sound effects. Right click, expose. Let's call this SFX volume. Okay, so now we can go into our volume script again. And now we need reference to our audio mixer. So in order to do that, we're going to need to add a new namespace, unityengine.audio. Okay, that's going to allow us to use the mixer. Let's make this public so that we can drag it into the inspector, and let's just call this mixer. Okay, now we need a reference to our three sliders here as well. So public slider, and in order to get the slider, we need to add this reference using unityengine.ui to the top here. So we've had to add both of these, okay? And let's call this our master slider. Let's make another one called music slider, and another one called SFX slider. Okay. So now we want to make a function to control these sliders. So they need to be public, void, and let's call this set master volume. Okay. And what we're going to do now is grab the reference that we just created in our audio mixer. So let's go mixer dot set float. And actually what we want to do here is pass in a float, and this is going to be our slider value, and this is just going to be whatever the value is of the slider, whatever it's been dragged to. Okay, and now we're going to set float. The float name is going to be master volume, just like we called it in Unity in our mixer, and we want to set it to our slider value. Okay, only there's a problem with this, and that is, I'll show you in Unity here. These sliders here start at 0 and they go down to -80 and up to +20, whereas this slider goes between 0 and 1, and I've changed it to be 0.001 because we don't want it to get right down to 0, so make sure you change that in all 3 sliders to be 0.001. So it's basically between 0 and 1, and this one's between -80 and 20, so that doesn't really match up. So in order to do that, we need to convert this slider value into something that the other slider can use. So in order to do that, we say mathf dot log10 slider value, and then we multiply that by 20. Bracket the whole thing. Okay. What have I done here? There we go. Okay, and then what we want to do is we want to save this value in player prefs. So we're going to go player prefs dot set float. We can call this master volume as well. We want to set it to our slider value. Okay, this is just going to save the value to player prefs for us. So now we're going to need 2 more functions in order to control the music and the sound effects. So let's call this one set music volume, call this one set SFX volume. And we want to change these to music volume and music volume. And SFX. And just be careful the way you type these, because this one needs to be exactly the way we typed it in Unity. And these are just player pref keys, so we're going to need to remember these when we want to get this value. And when we want to get it is on start. Let's put that here. On start, we want to get the volume settings from our player prefs, and we want to set our slider value to that, because we don't want the slider to start at, full every time and the volume's only at halfway. We want it to get the value and set the slider. So we do that. On start, we're going to take our master slider dot value. We're going to make it equal to player prefs dot get float master volume, and this is the key that we just typed down below. And what we also want to pass in here is, in case we haven't set the volume yet, we want to have a default value, and we'll just set that to 0.75. That way, when they first play, it's going to set it to 75% volume, and then they can adjust it. Okay, so we also want to do that for our other two sliders. So let's take our music slider and our SFX slider, and let's change this to, oh, there's no space there. Okay, so that's on start. It's just going to set the volume. If it hasn't been set yet, it's going to set it to 0.75. Okay, so that's that. Back into Unity now. We can go into our volume script, and we've got fields for all these now. So let's drag our master mixer into our mixer slot. Let's drag our master slider into our master, music to music, and SFX. And now if we go into our slider, on value changed, we can add new event. Let's drag in our volume script. And for this one, we want to go up to the top here, to the dynamic float. And basically this is just going to input whatever value the slider is set to. So we want to set master volume. And for our music, we're going to drag our volume in there. Set music volume. And for our SFX, same thing. Set SFX volume. Okay. So let's test this out now. If we hit play. So our sound effect is our music. Let's drag our master. It's getting louder. And if you forgot to change the 0 to a 0.001, it's going to be funky when you get down to 0. But remember to change that, it should work great. Okay, so that one controls that. Let's try music. Okay, that one's controlling the music. This one, not controlling the music. Okay. Let's stop the music. Let's try our sound effect, turn that up. That's louder. And it's very quiet. Now let's turn that up and let's try this slider. Let's turn it down. Okay, it's quiet. And that's loud. And if we leave it there and we change our music, it doesn't affect it. Okay. So that's working good. So last thing we need to do is figure out this mute button here. So we've got our mute toggle here, and we just want to make sure we've toggled it off because we don't want it to start muted. And let's go back into our volume script. We're going to add one more function. This is going to be public toggle mute volume. And it's going to take in bool is muted. Okay. And basically this is just the toggle is either going to be true or false because it's either checked or unchecked. So this is just going to pass in that value. Okay. And then what we're going to do is get all our audio sources. So audio source, we want an audio source array, okay, called sources. We're going to set it to find objects of type audio source. This is just going to get all the audio sources in our scene and put them in this array. And then what we can do is create a for loop. Okay. we're going to have sources dot length. Okay, so for each audio source, we're going to loop through once. And for each audio source, we want sources, the audio source we're currently iterating over, the mute equal whatever we've passed in there. So this is just going to loop through our audio sources. It's going to change the mute boolean to whatever we've toggled here. So if it's off, we're going to turn them all off. If it's on, we're going to turn them all on. Okay, pretty simple. Let's go back into Unity now. Let's go to our mute toggle here and let's just add a new event, same as our other sliders, and let's just drag in this volume. And up at the top here, we want to make sure we take this one from the top so it passes it in automatically. Toggle mute volume. Let's save that and let's try this out. So we're playing our music. Everything up. Mute stops. Let's stop our music. Sound effect, let's mute that. Okay, no sound. Let's try both. Perfect. That's it for this video. Hopefully you found it helpful. Thanks